tonight's edition of SmackDown, we are going to find out, or at least it was somewhat pretty much teased very heavily.
We were told.
We were told that we would find out the decision of whether or not Jey Uso would be siding with the bloodline or if he would be siding with his brother. So that is the show long tease, and that's how we start things off with Solo, Sikoa, and Paul Heyman starting the show off immediately in the ring as Jey quickly interrupts. Jey comes out. He's very pissed off at Solo Sikoa, of course, for turning on Jimmy Uso last week. Jey is pissed at that Solo stabbed their brother in the back. It's something they don't do. He doesn't know if he can forgive Solo for it. So he asked Paul Heyman for an explanation. Heyman says this is not anybody's fault but Jimmy's. Jimmy made up his mind not just for himself, but for Jey. He pulled the trigger in kicking Roman Reigns on Jey's behalf without asking him. Heyman says Jimmy is only jealous that Roman has been grooming Jey to be his right-hand man, and Jimmy has resented his twin brother ever since. Heyman says that there are no more Usos because tonight Jey will be bringing gold back to the bloodline as a single star by defeating Austin Theory for the U.S. Championship. And if he happens to do that, Roman Reigns will groom him so that he can someday be the tribal chief, but he needs Jey's answer now. Crowd is cheering very loudly as Jey contemplates. Jey does not give it an answer right now, but he says he'll take Heyman up on the U.S. title challenge. Heyman extends his hand as if to confirm the deal. The crowd starts screaming, no, no, no. And Jey eventually says, I'll get back to you on that one before leaving. So they're very much dangling Roman Reigns' approval and love in front of Jey Uso in an effort to get him to turn against his own brother. There's always been a bit of succession influence in the bloodline, but this was maybe the most sort of direct comparison we could make, where very much using the Logan Roy playbook. It seems like they're using the tribal chief successor story to at least further this Jey Uso storyline. What do you think of this segment?
I thought it was good. It reminded me a little of the arc that they, well, it wasn't, I don't know if I call it an arc, but the bit that they did on AEW where you had Don Callis very obviously lying to try to keep himself ingratiated with Kenny Omega. And you had this disconnect between what the audience knows and I think what the characters know is a manifestly dishonest person and who they know they can't trust. And on the other hand, you have a situation where they want to trust them. Because in Kenny's case, it was because you want to extend the benefit of the doubt to someone you care about, whether you know they're lying or not. And in this case, it's he wants to believe that Roman does love and respect him in the same way. And so despite the fact that in both of these cases, you're dealing with characters who are really smart enough to know that this is someone who they cannot place their trust in and who is going to say whatever they need to in order to make sure that they have this person on their side, that there's this part of them that just wants to believe, and that really threatens to overwhelm their good sense. And I think in Jey's case, you had this through line through this entire episode where he's also kind of enjoying the power that he has, at least temporarily, to keep them in suspense and to string these people along. And I think that he does know that this is something that has a limited time frame. But at the same time, you saw him this week knowing that he could kind of milk it. And as a result, saw him being a little cheerier and a little less brooding than he has been over the last few months. I tend to think he's going to end up going with his brother. And because story-wise, the Roman title reign should end with Jey, the first competitor, the first person who went with him, who joined up for him in the bloodline. Now, I think the question for WWE is, can you get Jey Uso to a level where he makes a good successor for Roman? And I don't know if they can do that. I don't know if they can. He is an exceptionally strong character in relation to Roman. but I don't know that he's the kind of strong character that, say, a Sami Zayn was, where he can stand fully on his own and carry the weight of the company. Time will tell. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm saying that it is a big ask.
And Sammy wasn't even chosen for the role, as good as
No,
Sammy is. I mean,
no, that
ultimately,
fell into their laps.
I really do. I do think Cody is going to be that person, and if
Yes.
Cody is going to be that person, then ultimately, where does it leave Jey? You can argue, simply being able to establish Jey Uso as like a pretty great single star on his own, tonight was more than evidence that this crowd really wanted him to at least to be a U.S. champion level wrestler. That alone might be enough. But what do you have to say?
But do they want him to be a US champion, or do they simply want him to break with Roman? I tend to think it's the latter. And
Okay.
that if you were to get him away from Roman, he
Mhm.
loses some of his allure.
Hmm.
But that said, look, he's executed this very well, and I'm not saying anything bad about the segment itself, which I thought people love this story, and I think that they have found a way to continue it, even in the undeniable lull that's happened since they took Sammy out of the equation.
Certainly. Yeah, there were a few weeks in there where, I think without the energy of the Zayn run, without the Cody run, I don't know how much energy I really had for another sort of bloodline infighting type of story, but I
Mm.
think they've done a good job. Okay. So we've kind of told the Jimmy story now at this point. Now we're focused on Jey again. And with Jey,
Hmm.
so much of the feeling of the story is about how it began. So a lot of
Hmm.
things do come back full circle. I love maybe how you pointed out that this time around, Jey is maybe a bit more sort of kind of cocky almost about the power that he holds over Roman, because he's been through this before. Okay. He was the first
Hmm.
person Roman did this to. Not only that, he lived through the entire Sammy thing, he lived through the entire Jimmy thing, and now he kind of
Hmm.
knows what to expect.
Yeah.
So, how are they going to portray the Jey Uso character as somebody who's already experienced and been through this? And how are they going to make him break down again, despite being ready for all those
Mm.
things? What's the next level? What's the terrible thing that they're going to do to this poor guy that's going
Yeah.
to make him, as prepared as he is, be able to break down? You know.
And I think also, how are they going to resolve this conflict? Because, like I said, storyline wise, to perfect the story, you need Jey to be the one who beats him. But I think clearly it's going to be like Cody is the guy. He's the clear next in line, despite not winning at WrestleMania. And I do think that now you can put Cody in that role and not give it to Jey, and that may be the better decision in terms of business. But yeah, you're always going to have that loose end with the story, because you need to, like, if you go that way, you're not closing it off. You might be closing off Cody's story, but you're not closing off the bloodline story.
Well, we can't find resolution for everybody. I mean, I think Sammy, to an extent, they did manage to find resolution for without necessarily having him, win the championship. It's not as big of a
Mm.
resolution, but at least for the character, it was some level of resolution. Cody is looking for the championship. That's his
Hmm.
goal.
Hmm.
Jay's isn't really about the championship. Right now, I think Jay's is going to be getting the role of tribal chief. And that doesn't necessarily mean he has to win the title
No, but he has to beat Roman.
eventually.
And do you want to have? I don't know that they're willing to commit to having Roman lose to two people in very high profile matches. Maybe they are.
Probably not anytime soon, at least. Yeah. So, but bottom line is, I mean, this continues to be very compelling with a lot of directions that I think they can go into. And this segment, I thought, did a great job of setting up the show long tease, really milking this thing and hopefully making it captivating in the process. We go to our first Money in the Bank qualifier featuring Mustafa Ali and Santos Escobar. LA Knight, who has already qualified from SmackDown, shows up to join the commentary.